You gave her everything, your time, your heart, your loyalty. And still she pulled away. Still she said, "I don't feel it anymore still." She gave her smile to another man who didn't care half as much. Why? Because she didn't want everything. She wanted something else, something rarer, something most men don't even know they're missing. She wanted the man who mastered himself, because that kind of man, she can feel him without him speaking. She respects him without him trying. She chases him because he doesn't chase her. You're about to learn exactly why, and when you do, it will flip everything. You thought you knew about love upside down. If you're tired of being the nice guy who loses, if you're done with watching the wrong men win, then listen closely. This is the most important message you'll ever hear about love women and who you must become now. Before we go any further, comment "I rise" below to declare. You're ready to become the man she doesn't walk away from? Most men are bleeding silently inside because no one taught us how to win. The love we give so freely, and even fewer, taught us what women truly crave beyond gifts, looks, or status. That's why I'm putting together the most important guide I've ever created. The Stoic Relationship Blueprint for Men. It's dropping in a few days. And if you're serious about changing your life and relationships, this is it. What you'll learn in this video will show you why you need it, because if you don't understand what truly attracts and keeps a woman, not just for a moment but for a lifetime, you'll keep chasing shadows. Let's break down why women stay, why they fall for men who might not be rich but have these 6 traits. Number 1, emotional 1. Emotional control. Emotional control is not a talent you're born with. It's a muscle forged in the fire of repeated trials and relentless self-honesty. It's the man who sits with his discomfort, not running from it, not drowning it in distractions, but facing it head-on, who becomes unshakable. This is not about suppression, it's about integration. Think back to the last time you felt betrayed, your chest tightened, your mind raced. You couldn't think straight. Most men lash out or shut down in those moments, but the man who changes his life is the one who learns to sit still and feel everything, without reacting when your girlfriend questions your worth, when your boss disrespects your work, when life humiliates your expectations. Do you explode or stay grounded? Women instinctively test this, not maliciously, but biologically. They need to feel your frame. They need to see what happens when your emotions are provoked. Do you flinch? Do you crumble? Or do you hold the line? Because the man who can master his responses, who can maintain his composure without becoming passive, radiates a kind of authority. Most men never understand this. Man doesn't chase closure, doesn't seek permission, and never begs for respect. He commands it by his state, and here's the brutal truth. Most will never tell you if she doesn't feel emotionally safe around you. She'll look elsewhere. That emotional safety doesn't come from always agreeing or being overly kind. It comes from your ability to remain solid when her world is shaking. It comes from being able to say no without guilt from listening, without reacting from making decisions, without needing her validation. This is not indifference. This is strength under pressure. The kind of strength that doesn't boast or bark, but simply is. And when a man lives like this, something strange happens. She leans in. Not because you're perfect, but because you're consistent. She may not understand why she trusts you more, but she will. And if you're struggling with this, don't shame yourself. Start by creating space between stimulus and reaction. When you feel anger rise, delay your response, breathe, pause. Write about it before you act on it. Journal your triggers, understand your patterns, because when you bring awareness to your emotional blind spots, you take back control. Go lift, heavy train your body, because a disciplined body leads to a clear mindset. Micro goals for daily control, like not checking your phone when you're anxious or choosing a walk over confrontation. You cannot control everything she does, but you can control everything you do. That's the essence of strength. And if you think this is too hard, ask yourself, what has losing control ever given you? Except regret. You don't need to yell to be heard. You don't need to sulk to be noticed. You need to be present because presence is power. Emotional control isn't about being stoic in appearance, it's about being fortified in essence. It's the man who can stand in the fire and not be consumed. That man doesn't have to raise his voice to lead. His stillness speaks louder than chaos. And in that stillness, she finds safety. She finds depth. And most importantly, she finds a reason to purpose-driven focus stay. Number 2, purpose-driven focus. Purpose-driven focus is the gravity that holds your life together when everything else tries to pull it apart. It's not a job. It's not a side hustle. It's the force that shapes your identity, sharpens your decisions, and eliminates the noise that distracts weaker men. If you wake up every day without a reason, beyond comfort, you are losing. Because a man without purpose is a man drifting vulnerable to every distraction, every temptation, every shallow form of validation. And here's what most won't admit. She's watching this. She's watching how you spend your free time. She's listening when you talk about your dreams or when you don't. She can feel when you've stopped moving forward. She won't always say it out loud, but it sits with her. It eats at her because purpose isn't just about what you do. It's about who you are when things get hard. It's about waking up when your body says no, about staying focused, when she's pulling away, about continuing to build, even when no one claps. Women are attracted to a man who's going somewhere, not because he's busy, but because he's driven. Not because he's successful, but because he's aligned. And if your purpose dies the moment she leaves, it was never purpose. It was dependency. Your mission must be untouchable, bigger than heartbreak, bigger than ego, bigger than comfort. Build a body that can carry you through hell. Go to the gym even when you're tired. Run when your legs beg you to stop. Read every day, even when your mind wanders. Write your goals down. Not just what you want, but why you want it. Break them into actionable steps and attack them daily. A man with purpose doesn't look for motivation. He acts from principle. This isn't about hustle culture. This is about soul alignment when you're lost. Write when you're uncertain. Move when you're heartbroken. Create purpose isn't just external, it's internal stability. It means you don't get lost in her mood, swings her distance, or her confusion. You stay the course she may leave, but your mission remains, and if she does stay, she will stay, because she knows that with or without her, you are still going to become the man you were born to be. That's the kind of purpose that changes the way she looks at you because she knows most men are pretending. But you're different. You're building, and you don't need applause. The work itself is enough. Remember, the man who walks in alignment doesn't need to chase. He attracts not just women, but respect, opportunities, and peace. Number 3, inner integrity. You can't lead if your soul doesn't trust 3. Inner integrity, you and she can't follow you. If she senses, even for a second, that you fold when no one is watching. Integrity isn't about doing the right thing. When it's easy, it's choosing the harder. Right when the easier wrong would go unnoticed. She listens to the promises you make, but what she truly feels is whether you honour them when it's inconvenient, when it hurts. When no one will find out, a man without integrity has no foundation. You say you want loyalty, but what you don't realise is that loyalty is attracted to consistency. Every time you skip your workout after saying you wouldn't. Every time you tolerate things. You told yourself you'd never tolerate again. You erode your own trust, and if you don't trust you, how can she? If your values change, depending on who's watching. You don't have values, you have masks. You want to be respected, then be ruthless with yourself. Say what you mean and follow through. Like your life depends on it, because it does, she's watching. When you say you'll get your finances in order, and then waste hours on distractions. She notices when you say you're serious about growth but run from the work. And deep down, that erosion of self-respect is what makes you shrink in your own eyes. You must become the man who wakes up and checks in with himself before the world tells him who to be. Write down your values. Write down your non-negotiables. Then test them in small ways. Show up to the gym. When you're tired, keep your word even when it costs you comfort. Walk away from deals that compromise your soul, and when you're tempted to compromise, because you will be. Remember this: once you sell out, even once, you'll keep finding reasons to do it again. Integrity doesn't make life easier, it makes life honest. And when you become that man, your presence alone brings safety, because when she sees you act from principle instead of impulse, when she sees you stay true, when it's hard, she stops questioning and starts believing. You stop needing to convince her because she feels it. Every move, every moment speaks for you. Number 4, emotional. 4, emotional backbone. Backbone. Conviction cannot be faked when you speak, and your eyes scan for her approval. She feels it, not the words, but the weight behind them. And if it's light, so becomes her respect. Emotional backbone means you do not collapse under the pressure of her emotion. You don't flinch when she's loud, don't shrink when she's disappointed. Don't retreat when she doesn't agree why, because truth doesn't need permission to stand tall. Every man has faced the moment when her mood shifts. Not because you did something wrong, but because she wants to feel your strength when you fold, when you apologize just to keep the peace, when you twist your beliefs to avoid discomfort, you kill the attraction she once had. You must stand in your truth with grace, not arrogance. A calm knowing that what you believe isn't up for debate, even with the woman you love. Backbone means having boundaries so clear that they don't need to be shouted. They are simply lived when she sees that she can get angry, emotional, unpredictable, and you remain grounded. Not to control her, but to stay connected to yourself. That's when she knows she's with a man, not a boy, not a pleaser. A man who leads not by demand, but by direction. Ask yourself, when was the last time you stood firm, even when it cost you her comfort? Have you ever disagreed with her and stayed calm through the disagreement, not to win, but to remain aligned with your values? This is your call to stop avoiding hard conversations, to stop giving in to guilt, to stop letting emotions determine your direction. The world is already full of men who abandon themselves at the first sign of conflict. Be the rare one who holds frame, who says what needs to be said, who does not get pulled into emotional storms, but offers a lighthouse instead. And when you lead like this, not only does she respect you, she feels safe enough to soften. Because when you become immovable, she finally feels free to be fully herself. Not controlled, not manipulated, but seen, tested, and still held. That's the gift of a man with emotional backbone. He gives her the freedom to fall without fear because she knows you won't fall with her. Number 5, mystery and depth. She's 5. Mystery and depth drawn. Not to what you show, but to what you hold back with purpose. There's a magnetism in a man who doesn't feel the need to explain every part of himself. And it's not about being distant, it's about being full. A man with depth doesn't need to dominate the conversation because he carries something more powerful than words. Purpose pain turned into wisdom, a mission bigger than attention. Ask yourself when you're with her, do you rush to fill the air with what you've done, where you've been, or do you allow the moment to breathe, knowing she feels more in your presence than in your paragraphs? Mystery isn't manipulation, it's maturity. It's a quiet sense of knowing the men who captivate without trying are the ones who've walked through fire and no longer need to prove their scars. Their posture says, I've seen things I've endured and I'm still here. Women are drawn to that stillness, that calm depth that whispers, I don't need you to see me, I already see myself. Mystery isn't about hiding, it's about having more than what you reveal when you spend years building yourself privately. Your presence becomes a story that doesn't need telling. And when she senses that she wants to know more, not because of what you say, but because of who you are, think about the most magnetic men you've ever seen. They weren't loud, they weren't seeking validation, they were anchored. They walked into a room and didn't look around to be seen. They looked around to understand this is depth. This is the man who reads philosophy not for show, but because it challenges his thinking. The man who journals in the dark trains in the early morning builds not for followers, but for freedom. Mystery is earned in solitude. It's forged in the commitment to growth when no one is watching. And it's revealed not in speeches, but in presence, when you stop chasing attention and start building a life so rich it doesn't need advertisement. Everything changes. She begins to feel that you are not there to impress her, but to invite her into a world that exists with or without her. That's what makes her lean in. Women don't want a man who needs them to feel alive. They want a man who is already fully alive and chooses to share that energy with her. And depth, it's layered. It's the ability to feel deeply but not get lost in those feelings, to hold space for her storms without being swept away, to be moved by beauty, art, music, without being enslaved by emotion. It's having values so rich that even in chaos, you don't betray them to cultivate mystery and depth. You must first become honest about who you are when no one's clapping. Do you read for truth? Do you train because you respect your body? Do you reflect because your growth matters? Or are you still chasing noise because you're afraid of what silence might reveal? Your goal isn't to impress, it's to embody. To walk through life with a presence that requires no announcement, to be the kind of man she respects. Not because of what you do for her, but because of who you are when she's not around. Write your truths. Know your story. Don't share every page. Let her discover you chapter by chapter and build your character so richly that even if she never finishes the book, she's forever changed by the parts she read. That's mystery. That's depth. And that's what makes a man unforgettable. And here's what most men never realize. Mystery isn't built through tricks, detachment, or pretending to be unavailable. It's built through depth that comes from your lived experience, your choices when no one is watching, and your unwavering commitment to grow. Even when the world isn't applauding. You don't need to say you're disciplined if your body reflects it. You don't have to explain your boundaries if your behavior upholds them. Depth means you're not accessible to everyone because your energy is sacred, because your time is valuable, because your peace has been earned. And when you walk like that, not because you were told to, but because you've fought through your shadows and emerged grounded, people feel it, she feels it, the world feels it. There's a different frequency to a man who spent time understanding his past, forgiving what needs to be forgiven, letting go of illusions, and sharpening his purpose until it slices through distractions. She leans in, not because she's chasing validation, but because your energy says, "There's more here than I'll ever say out loud." That's what makes her eyes linger a little longer. What makes her thoughts return to you. Hours after you've left the room, you don't need to talk about your values when they show up in how you speak to others, how you carry yourself in tension, how you protect your vision from being diluted by noise. You want to be remembered. Start by building an inner world so profound, so strong, that even those who only scratch the surface are changed by it, sit in stillness. Not because it's trendy, but because you know the clarity it gives you is non-negotiable. Reflect not to dwell, but to evolve. Let your curiosity lead you into books, conversations and disciplines that stretch you beyond comfort. The men who fascinate are those who don't flinch in the face of their own complexity. They dive into it, and from that place they relate not from their surface, but from their substance. She doesn't need a man who tells her everything. She needs a man who is something. And the deeper you go into your own story, the more layers you'll bring into your presence. That's mystery. That's what captivates her. The feeling that this man is becoming more every day and he's not waiting for the world to validate it. He's already chosen who he is. That's where your power lies. Number 6, unbreakable boundaries. The 6th, unbreakable boundaries moment. She senses that your boundaries bend with her emotions. Her respect begins to vanish. Not because she doesn't love you, but because the part of her that yearns for leadership begins to feel unsafe. Boundaries are not about control, they're about clarity, identity, and self-respect. And a man who doesn't know where he ends and others begin is a man constantly lost in emotional storms. He doesn't know how to navigate. You want to know why she tests you, why she pushes your limits, even when she says she hates conflict. It's not because she wants to argue, it's because part of her needs to know that you won't abandon your standards for her approval every time you say yes. When your soul screams no, you trade respect for temporary peace, and over time she no longer sees the man, only the boy who needs her mood to feel steady. The man with unbreakable boundaries doesn't flinch when challenged. He simply holds, not with anger, with certainty. He knows what's acceptable in his world and what's not. He doesn't negotiate his standards to keep her close. He upholds them so that what stays in his life is aligned with who he truly is. Ask yourself, when was the last time you allowed your lines to blur, just to avoid tension? Have you ever walked away from something you knew was wrong for you, even though your body wanted to stay? That's the kind of inner strength that turns attraction into devotion. Because when she sees you draw a line and live by it, especially when it costs you comfort, she feels a kind of trust that no amount of words can generate. She begins to rest, not because you cater to her feelings, but because your presence gives her something to trust. And this trust only grows when you show consistency. You're not up one day and lost the next. You're not strong when she agrees and shaken when she doesn't. You are rooted, and that rootedness teaches her how to relax. Not because you're passive, but because your precise boundaries also mean you know what you stand for and who you are. You don't attend every argument. You don't tolerate disrespect, not even from her. You don't let your time be drained by people who only show up to take you. Don't engage in conversations that violate your values. You don't sacrifice your truth to make anyone else comfortable. And this is the very foundation of strength, choosing principle over pressure. If you want to become a man of unbreakable boundaries, start by defining what matters most to you. What do you value in relationships? What are your non-negotiables in communication? How do you want to be treated? And how will you enforce that standard without rage but with firmness? Write it down. Own it. Live it. The men who lead the strongest relationships are not those who never face conflict. They are the ones who meet conflict with structure. They don't fight to win. They protect the container. They don't explode. They correct. They don't control others. They control access to themselves. This is where your power lives, not in dominating her decisions, but in deciding who gets to walk with you based on how they show up. Your energy is not a public resource. Your attention is not up for auction. Your life is your temple. And only those who treat it with reverence belong inside when you live like this. Your relationships stop draining you. They start refining you. You no longer fear being alone because you've chosen to be whole. And from that place, every woman you meet feels something rare. A man who doesn't just set boundaries, but embodies them. That embodiment is what makes her respect you. It's what makes her trust you. And it's what makes her stay. And here's what no one tells you the moment you start enforcing your boundaries. You won't just lose people who never respected you. You'll find the parts of yourself you abandoned to be liked every time you say no and mean it. You reclaim a piece of the man you were meant to be. And yes, people will push back. They'll question you. They'll accuse you of being selfish, cold, arrogant. Why? Because your strength exposes their lack of it. Don't explain yourself. Don't justify. Just remain, because the man with boundaries doesn't chase. He attracts. He doesn't beg to be understood. He lives in a way that speaks for itself. She may get emotional. She may test the line. She may even threaten to leave. That's not your cue to fold. It's your cue to lead. And leading doesn't mean force. It means standing firm, unapologetic, rooted. Because when you show her, not tell show, that your peace will not be negotiated, she learns to rise to meet you or walk away, and either result strengthens you. The man with unbreakable boundaries doesn't argue about his worth. He simply walks. He doesn't tolerate chaos disguised as love. He doesn't confuse intensity with intimacy. He knows that the deeper the love, the clearer the structure must be. So if you're tired of feeling lost in relationships, if you're tired of being the one who always gives more, ask yourself, what have I allowed that I should have ended? What have I tolerated that dishonoured me? Where have I said yes out of fear instead of self-respect? Then make a decision, not just in your head, but in your habits. Boundaries are not spoken. Once they are lived daily, they are in the way you answer your phone, the way you end conversations that cross the line, the way you hold eye contact when someone tries to intimidate you. They are in the quiet confidence that you will not break your own rules for anyone. And the more you live this way, the less chaos will enter your life, because people who can't respect strength will find someone else to manipulate. And those who are ready to grow will meet you at your level. That is the power of unbreakable boundaries. You don't just protect your time, you protect your essence. You don't just avoid the wrong people, you attract the right ones. You don't just get more respect from others, you become someone you respect. And once that happens, everything in your life begins to align. You've listened. Conclusion this far because something inside you knows you're done with half-truths, fake advice, and living beneath your potential. You're tired of giving everything and still being misunderstood. You felt what it's like to be the nice guy. She loses respect for the provider who gets ignored, the good man who gets left, and in a world that constantly asks men to give more, but respects them less. It's no wonder you feel like breaking, but you won't because you've now seen the path. That's why I've built the Stoic Relationship Blueprint. Not just another book, but the most powerful, practical, brutally honest guide for men on becoming unshakable in love, in life, and in leadership. It's for the man who's done being confused, done being used, done being weak. This is your structure. This is the code. This is the clarity you've been needing, and it's dropping in just a few days. But listen closely. This isn't going to be available forever. We're capping the number of sales to protect the wisdom inside, to preserve the impact, and to ensure every man who gets it is serious. Once the limit is reached, it's over. No exceptions. So, if you're ready to finally understand, women, elevate your standards, protect your peace, and lead from the core of your masculine power, comment Blueprint below, and be one of the first to claim it the moment it's launched. Support this channel by liking, sharing, and subscribing. Every action helps us reach more men who need to hear this. And if this spoke to you, if you felt understood for the first time in a long time, then know this. Your breakthrough is closer than you think.